course of this time? Or, that's a concern for a community. Because what it makes it seem like is that we just purposely neglected. And like I said, I know that's not something that you.
I'll put it this way. In my review of the capital requests of the school division to city, and I know we have to prioritize all of our priorities. I mean, we're competing with a lot of other needs, so I understand that important decisions have to be made. But it goes back to the importance of keeping the regular maintenance up. We could go back to 2011, am I correct? We could go back to 2011 and requests for maintenance for replacing the roof and other systems at Huntington Middle School were submitted in the capital improvement budget, and they were not funded. So the cost just continued to go up because we resubmitted them the next year. So I know there are other priorities that take place, but I go back to that same conversation I had about a roof. Just think about your house. If the roof starts leaking and you don't fix it, you're going to have to come back and replace some other things other than the roof. If the AC unit goes bad, you start getting mildew problems and other issues, and it becomes a sick building. So some of these, keeping that maintenance up with HVAC systems, roof replacements, which I showed you a slide, we're doing a very good job of now. But those capital improvements just started continue to compile in Huntington, and they led to deeper level issues. I think the final estimate for just getting the work done that needed to be done was in the $22 million range, and that wasn't even a renovation.
So in my researching what we had from the capital improvement plans from the past, I know our first year is pretty much that priority year. And I may have to go back and look at it because I hopefully I'll say it correctly, but when I look at each priority year, it didn't seem like Huntington was in that priority year. It was always on the second or third or fourth year under that capital improvement plan. And I know things change.
Not the maintenance, but the replacement.
For replacement, right?
Not the maintenance.
And that's what I was saying. If we had HVAC being, and you saying the HVAC
The replacement,
wasn't
the work.
done.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the work to renovate, to replace the systems, the roof, other maintenance that was needed to take place.
You're just coming into it, but so we're saying other middle schools, high schools, elementary schools have work being done to it, except Huntington.
And go back to that pie chart for operational dollars. And when it's not funded, what we try to do is compensate as best we can. I'll go back to the slide on operational dollars. No, keep on the pie chart. See, I see. You're almost there. We go back and supplement some operational dollars to get some of that work done that's not being done. Okay?
I do have a question. I just don't understand. The city funds us in the first year of a 5-year plan, right? But isn't every year first year for a new year? I mean, when does that 5 year start? Is it on the 5 or the 0? I don't understand when, because every year we submit something, it's going to be a first year for something new. So I don't understand. Tell me, I'm having a tough time comprehending this. We only fund it in the first year. So when does that first year start? That's what I'm kind of lost.
The first year is what's appropriated. That's actually the budget. What you do for 5 years is a capital plan.
Okay.
What you do for that first year is the capital budget.
So every year,
distinction, that first year has money associated with it. The out years are part of a plan, that there's a little more flexibility and there's changes and things happen. But there aren't dollars associated with the plan that are actually appropriated. The only dollars associated with that first year.
so every year we get a first year though, right? So,
Yeah.
so every year would be a first year.
The next year of the CIP would be the
the
first year. And there would be funding
So
associated
Huntington,
with those requests.
so before I got on the board, Huntington was never ever put in the first year?
Replacement was in the plan.
Okay, so
But it never made it into the actual operating.
Okay.
Well, plans were requested in the first year, but some were not, we were not funded for it.
Well, and I think too, that's a great question, Councilman Harris, and I think too, as we look at this, these slides, and it seems so black and white. But you also have to take into account in 2008 and several years after, we were going through a recession. And so the tax revenue, our revenue would keep down. And not to mention the millions of dollars in state cuts to education. Those are some of the factors that are not in this slide, and that's why I'm so glad, Dr. Parker, we are doing this so that we can have a long-range plan, because I remember being on the council and we'll have something presented, and then some type of way another project will come and take, Discovery STEM. That became a Magruder. And so I think once we're sitting and talking and everybody's understanding what's next, and looking at the revenue and how we can make it work, I think it'll make it so that we're not missing as many and we won't get into a Huntington again.
Mr. Chairman, I think Councilman Harris brought up the key point of, how do we get to this place? And I think, because I think that that is the key point here, is that that understanding of the 5-year capital improvement budget, this being, in my 5th year, we were submitting these CIP budgets all this time, and seeing that Huntington was in the 2nd year or another school was in the 2nd year, and then we get to that 2nd year, and the funding didn't show up for that particular project, and that going on, that at least led to some of my frustration. I'll just say that the frustration with the process. And I'll just ask the question of, because I am, similar to you, Mr. Chairman, incredulous of what is the point of us presenting a 5-year plan if the 5-year plan is not done? And that's just a rhetorical question just put out there for everyone. What is it? So if it's a 1-year budget, then why don't we just prepare a 1-year budget for council every year? And I'm fine with that. But what's the point of us coming up with a 5-year plan if we never do 5-year? If we never do a 5-year plan?
I think that's kind of what I'm getting to from a financial point. If it's just kind of a plan and we have it sitting there, I don't think have we ever funded anything in a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th year, a big project. And if we haven't, maybe that's not the way that we should be presenting our budget. I understand that we have to present the 3 or 4 or 5-year plan, but those are just plans. But we're putting we get false impressions that we got it in the plan, it wasn't funded that year. Why am I even keeping it on the book? Why?
Well, the 2nd year, it has to be resubmitted for the 1st plan. If you push that back the 2nd year, you change it. We don't change it.
I can't tell you without going back and looking, because I haven't, that what Dr., and I can understand Dr. Park coming in new, but I'm pretty sure what you submitted last year is different from this year. Huntington.
But I think for our board, I'm just saying that not everyone on the board, right, is financially literate, because we come from different different aspects of work, right? But that means that we should have submitted Huntington every year, and that's what I'm hearing. Huntington should have been submitted every year in that plan, in order for it to get.
If it didn't come in the next year.
Next year, so we should. This is my 5th year on the board. I didn't know. Yeah, it's a revelation, right? So it's a revelation. I'm always learning. So that's just a big. We just made a big turn in my understanding of how the budget works. And I think that to our board members as well. Because I kind of know how the plans and. In the 2nd year, that's when we're going to put the money in for it. The 3rd year, we'll put this much money for it. I mean, that's how I kind of save. We put it here, we put it in the budget. I'm taking that much money out, kind of putting it aside for another school, putting it aside for another school. And, about 5 or 6 years, we've had this money up and ready to get a new school. I'm going to tell you, I did not know that until what you just told me just now. And I don't think a lot of my board members were aware of this rotating 5 years, so we're uploading everything every year.
That's why I said what I
There's a
said.
budget year and then there's a plan.
Plan, yeah,
I would not eliminate the planning part of that. At least gives you an idea of where you're headed.
Yeah.
Plan is to get your priorities.
The plan is to get your
And priorities can change, but the intent is to give you a 5-year look out into the future
Right.
of what you think you're going to need,
Right.
knowing that those priorities could change based on
So,
circumstances.
Mr. Chairman, what I think I'm hearing is that the 5-year plan is more for us to be thinking about our priorities, but it doesn't really suggest to the city that in 3 years, we're looking to need your support to help us build a new Huntington.
You're telling us that your plan is your priorities for that first year of what you want to see funded. If your priority was something else and you put it in year 3, how am I to know you really wanted that instead of year 1?
Oh,
That's
no.
the
Which-
priority.
No, what I meant is that, it's coming down the pipe, if you
Yeah,
will.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, like for instance, I would really like to see Warwick High School in that 5-year plan, because, you know, I feel like it's a very visible school right there on Warwick Boulevard, and it was identified in our Mosley study. And so that's planning, that's looking to the future.
See, and that's kind of what happened with Huntington. I do remember a few years back, the school board superintendent came and Huntington was a priority, and then some type of way, you all came back and said, no, Magruder, we gotta find the money for Magruder. And so when that switches like that, we are going on the request from, city council just can't say we wanna build Magruder. We do it, somebody from the school board had to request that. And so therefore, Dr. Parker, goes back to what I'm glad we're doing today, because if you're meeting regularly, and I would suggest at least quarterly, and everybody is staying on the same page, and people are communicating. I like the plan where we have school board and city council paired together so we can stay on the same page. It's hard to run a city when the two governing bodies are not communicating appropriately. And so that's what has been a piece of our, not has been successful with what we need to do. So I'm counting this as the first step in moving in a better direction, so that we won't have a lot of the Huntington blunders, and that we'll be on the same page and we can work out how we're going to use our money in the most effective manner.
Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I just have a recommendation. Obviously, if it comes to light, that, we probably need to get on some type of same schedule. I'm not gonna say normally, but I'm sure that's probably a code that says how cities or schools lay out their budget. But from experience, and what I do now is, the 5-year plan is great. You go into the program phase first, then you go into the planning, then you guys come back into the budget, and then we execute. So let's say we want to build Huntington in FY25, okay? Whenever you guys sign the budget, we go into the planning phase, you go into the planning phase may take a year and a half, 2 years, then you have 2 years of construction, and FY25 we all cut the ribbon. So that's the way a normal PPBE works. So I don't know if the Code of Virginia makes it different for us, but at the federal level, that's the way we execute. So whenever we bring a requirement, and the requirement is what drives the whole process, which means we can't show up and say, we want a middle school when we only got 50 students. So the requirement is we have to service X amount of kids, which drives us to middle school. And then we go into the process. So whenever we bring that to you in the first year, we can call that programming if you want. You guys set that money aside, knowing that in 4 years from now, 5 years from now, we'll be cutting a ribbon. Now, if that money is reallocated somewhere else, then there's really nothing we can do about that but to resubmit it, and hopefully, it kicks the can down the road again in another year, basically. But as long as it's earmarked and fuck that, then that's what it is. We can't go spend on anything else.
Which is a good point. I think Ms. Harris has a good point. We submitted a request in FY19 for $2.8 million to begin the planning stages for Huntington Middle School. I know we are currently, I think I saw the November letter to the board on capital improvement, and we're talking about appropriating those dollars in the summer with FY20. So that would put us back. Again, it goes back to when do we get the money? We're getting FY19 dollars in the summer of, FY19 budget dollars in the summer of that. Yeah. So we need to make sure that we're continuing. But the money was loaded up front we paid for the feasibility study, but we put the 2.8 in there to actually do the contract and architect to design the building. And that work will not begin until those dollars are appropriated. So we're here requesting $50 million, but we haven't gotten 2.8 from you. So that's the point I'm making. We need to make sure we look at how we appropriate the dollars to the school.
And that actually 2.8 really don't come down the road to another 3 years. I mean, so we can do feasibility study all you want, it really doesn't mean anything. So why waste $2 million up front when you're doing the planning phase? When, I mean, it's gonna take part of the planning. So program, allocate the money, fund it, and then we go into the planning. Then budgeting, which means that we have to reduce costs or come back for more money if it goes over. And then you go into the execution, breaking dirt and things like that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm coming back to, I don't mind being ignorant here, why are we creating a 5-year CIP?
Right.
Why?
Right.
We're only funded for 1 year. Why are we creating a 5-year CIP? It's good for the board for us to look at 5 year and for us to do a study.
Well, you're asking to eliminate a plan. I mean, you come up with something new on 1 year that we have no idea at least where you're aiming, where you're trying to go. I would not eliminate that.
So let's not call it, we can call it a plan, but
Yeah.
from our perspective, when we submit it, we're looking for budgetary dollars to be assigned to that plan. And I think that's why the miscommunication is coming. I think,
And
yeah,
all we're asking, if you're on that plan, don't change it the
Correct.
next year with your priority list.
correct,
Okay.
correct.
Give